Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumbert from msdynamicsworld.com, and I'm pleased to be here hosting this session all about BI360 Cloud. My guest and our presenter today is Nils Rasmussen of Solver. And before I hand things off to him, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. So we do welcome your questions at any point throughout today's event. You can just look for the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the main presentation area. And we did want to launch with a couple of poll questions just to get your input. We'll be sharing the results shortly. I'm going to open that up right now. And those two questions should be visible to you here. So feel free to take a stab at those, and we'll be looking at it. I think it'll help sort of position the rest of today's event. So as that gets going here, I'm going to hand things off to Nils to get us started. So Nils, welcome.
All right. Thank you, Jason, and thank you to everyone that's joining us here today. So as you put in your poll answers there, and Jason, you can probably interrupt me in a little bit once you feel we have the answers we need, then we'll read those off so everyone has an idea of the statistics and the lay of the land as far as some key cloud questions. So in the meantime, I will get going here. So
and Nils, I would just say,
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was going to say close that box. Yeah.
Yeah. So today's focus is on BI360's cloud reporting tool that we just launched last week, actually. And for all of you that either have implemented a cloud ERP system and are looking for better reporting, or you're planning to do it, this can hopefully give you some insight into how rich and how automatic cloud-based financial and operational reporting can be. So that's my goal, is to show you what that can look like and hopefully give you some good ideas. All right? So first, we will do a little overview of how BI360 solves some specific customer needs around reporting and around cloud reporting. And then we will spend a good amount of time taking a look at the actual BI360 Cloud product. And then we will cover some facts, talk a little bit about integrations, and then how to get started with a cloud reporting tool is how we'll wrap it up. And then we will also make sure we finish so that we have time to read off questions. So that's good timing, because now I see we have results on the screen there. So from the poll, we had two questions. So the first one was about you and if you're planning to move your ERP to the cloud. So 23% says yes in 2017, 38% says yes in 2018, so that's next year, and then 23% says later, and 8% says never. Now, for those of you that said never, this webinar should not be a waste, because BI360 that you'll see today have been on-premise for the last 7 years since we launched the product, and it will continue to be on-premise. So we'll get back to that. So everything you see is still valid for an on-premise customer too. But that's interesting, that poll, because it shows that between right now and the end of next year, if you do the math there, 51% of everyone on the webinar are planning to move to the cloud with their ERP. So that's pretty much in the next 18 months, 19 months. So that's interesting. Of course, based on the title of the webinar being related to cloud reporting, we might have a little overweight of companies that are interested in the cloud. You would think so. So the survey, of course, could be, the numbers could be somewhat skewed based on the audience that's on the webinar. The second question was, what cloud ERP are you planning to implement? And Jason, because my screen is cut off a little bit, let's see if I can stretch it so I can see which dynamics. Yeah, now I stretched it. Let's see here, see which products people pointed to. All right, there we go. So 62% said that they're planning to evaluate Dynamics 365 Business Edition. So that is the smaller one, if you want to call it that, of the two Microsoft Cloud ERPs, the one that's based on the Dynamics NAV code. So 62% there. So that means we have probably most, SMB businesses on this call as compared to enterprises. And 23% of the folks on the call are going to look at the Enterprise Edition. So that is the one that's based on AX on the background. And then 8% will look at other cloud ERPs. So I think that was some great information for all of us, very interesting as we go into it. And I might use those statistics a little bit here and there where it makes sense in my comments. So let's get started. So why consider a cloud ERP report writer? A cloud-based report writer. And one of the main reasons would be because you're thinking about going to the cloud with your ERP, or you might already be there and you discover that, as is pretty usual with ERP systems, the main focus is not the report writer and typically not the budgeting tool. They're just part of many, many things an ERP vendor has to worry about. You probably have found that the reporting maybe not be exactly what you need. You might have found that you need to, still fix your financial statements in Excel after you have exported them out of the ERP system and so on. So that would be one reason. Okay. Another reason would be IT strategy. So what many accounting departments find these days is that in general, the company is forming a cloud strategy. I mean, they should. That even if that strategy is not to go to cloud, they should have formed a strategy. And if it is to go towards the cloud, well, then you need to start worrying about your reporting and budgeting as well, not just the ERP system. So if you are moving in that direction, then today you will see hopefully an attractive example of cloud-based financial reporting. Third reason could be that you want to benefit from one of the key reasons that people like cloud-based software in general, in that they don't have to worry about installations and upgrades. So you typically will always benefit from the latest features because the vendor, in this case with our cloud, that means Solver, is always keeping you on the latest version and upgrading all the time and releasing new features all the time. So that would be number 3 and 4 on this list to have that benefit. Okay? So those were some reasons. So specifically BI360 Cloud, what type of pain or needs are we looking to solve out there? And usually every time we do a poll of finance and accounting and we ask if they ever use Excel to do any of their reporting, any portion of their financial reporting, or if they ever use Excel for all or any portion of their budgeting or forecasting, it's usually 99 or 100% of the people in the room that will say, yes, we are using Excel in one or more of these areas. And the reasons for it are fairly obvious. It's that pretty much any finance accounting person know Excel, so they know the interface, they know how to do formulas and so on. Another reason is that it's extremely hard for any proprietary report writer to offer what Microsoft has been building into Excel for more than 2 decades, which is an extremely flexible and powerful formula language, whether that's an if statement that solves a specific problem or something more fancy like net present value or other types of calculations. So calculations are very powerful. And yet another reason is that Excel has pretty amazing formatting, even charting. So if you're not ready for, let's say, a Power BI, or you don't need extremely powerful dashboard-like functionality, but you would like to offer better analysis of the data in your financials, you might want to have some charts in there. And of course, Excel has great charts. So you get that sort of as a freebie. So formatting, charting, knowledge of the interface, flexibility of formulas, those are all reasons that almost 100% of the world of finance and accounting use Excel and like Excel. Now there's plenty of reasons not to like Excel when it's becoming your enterprise reporting tool or your enterprise budgeting tool, and that has everything to do with, the fact that you don't have a database underneath Excel, so you're linking stuff together and links get broken. It's lack of security. Obviously, as things move to the cloud, Excel was never really built to be a cloud report writer, even though you have 365. Office 365, that doesn't support Excel add-ins, so none of the many add-in vendors can really function there. So you can't easily bring with you the power of Excel to the cloud, and the weaknesses of Excel are, even if you could, would still be there. Again, lack of database, lack of real security, and so on. So all of that long spiel I just gave, actually it's around that first or second bullet point here that says flexible Excel report design. So that is the reason that when we built BI360 Cloud, knowing Excel extremely well from our current on-premise version of BI360, we were faced with a very important question, which was, do we bring with us Excel into our cloud architecture, or do we leave Excel behind and say that's only in our on-premise version, and do we instead build you a pure browser-based report writer? And from everything we've seen from other vendors in the last decade that have attempted to build browser-based report writers, every single one of them now have added a second interface, which basically is an Excel add-in. Why? Because you simply can't do all the things I talked about in the pure browser report writer. And that also goes for your ERP system. So if you're looking at going to any cloud ERP system, the built-in report writer is never going to be like what you can do in Excel, and you will most likely be an avid exporter of your reports to Excel every month, manually combining reports and fixing them and so on, pretty much like most of you have done on-premise. So how do you solve that so that you never have to do that manual work again, so that you can go to the cloud and still benefit from Excel? I'm going to show you that today. This third bullet point there says easy report access from web portal. So that has everything to do with the weakness of Excel to be a sharing tool, the lack of Excel having a portal, why many companies have built things like SharePoint portals to share files and reports, because that's not really part of Excel. So you will see today with BI360 Cloud that we have a brand new web portal, and that it's become extremely easy not only to be an active user running reports in there, and you'll see how that ties back to Excel, but also to be a very light user that now avoids going to a SharePoint or having to wait for someone to email them a report. They can simply do self-service and go and pick up the report in the portal. So you'll see that. So in summary, we believe that we have combined the best of two worlds. So cloud storage, cloud-based web portal for all end users, but yet a place that you're familiar with, namely Excel, to design the reports. And then we combine the two so that it's extremely easy to go back and forth between Excel and web. So I'm going to show you that. All right. Another pain that people have already is, and I bet 99% of you that are on the call today have this issue already, is that we are very much in a hybrid world. There are few companies that have 100% of their systems in the cloud right now. There are few companies that have 0% of their systems in the cloud now. So I'll give you an example. For your website, you probably use something like Google Analytics to track all the metrics for your website. That means you have data in the cloud. It's sitting in Google Analytics for your website. You may have a cloud-based payroll system, such as ADP, for example. That means your payroll data, your detailed payroll data is already in the cloud. You may have on-premise Dynamics, GP, SL, AX, NAV. You might have that on-premise. And that means the examples I just gave would make you very much a hybrid company where you have some cloud data sources and some on-prem. So reporting on all of this just got harder than it was 10 years ago when you had all of your data on-premise, because then a reporting tool could collect that into a local data warehouse, and then you could report on that data warehouse, or all that cubes if you use that structure. When you go to the cloud, there are extremely few vendors today that offers a cloud data warehouse. And if they do, it's usually a very technical setup. So with BI360, we've taken the concept that we have for our on-premise version of BI360, basically our data warehouse, and we moved that into the cloud with, of course, web interface and everything else. And the data, of course, is stored in the cloud so that you can connect to your different data sources, whether they are on-premise or in other clouds, and pull them together and then report on them from one place. So you don't have to go to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 report writers to get data from the examples I gave, like an ADP payroll, a Google Analytics statistical site, and your Dynamics on-premise database, for example. So we are trying to make that world easier today, and of course, in the future, as you keep getting different expert cloud systems, you'll probably go more and more in that direction since all the vendors are going there, and your data is now in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different clouds. It will be more important than ever to have a cloud data warehouse, that one place where you can bring in the key information that is important for your managers to run the company. So those are some really, really important components that you'll be seeing today. And then finally, and I put that in orange here because that's a unique thing, is you now have a choice if you come to Solver. You have a choice between deploying in the cloud or on-premise. Like I said earlier, we've been on-premise already for 7, 8 years. Or what's extra interesting, or both. Because you might say, I have Dynamics still for a year or 2 years on-premise, my ERP system, and I want live reporting with a great report writer there, so directly connected to your database, live reporting. That could be BI360 on-premise, but I'm ready to move my consolidation, because maybe you have multiple companies and maybe even several ERPs, move my consolidation to the cloud, or move my budget process to the cloud. And then maybe later when you move your on-prem ERP to the cloud, now your reporting for that will also be there. So we can handle cloud, on-premise, or hybrid, basically both, which is pretty cool. All right. I'm not going to read all of the main points on this slide. They're very typical points for most cloud systems, like benefits of moving to the cloud. Now you're seeing these benefits for reporting. So I'll just highlight 3 things that I underlined here, is you no longer have to worry about the hardware or server software cost or maintenance as far as it comes to reporting, and we'll talk about budgeting at the very end, because that's, of course, taken care of by us in the cloud. And the second thing I will underline is what we talked about earlier. You're always upgraded automatically by Solver, and you will always have quick bug fixes and new features because of that. And the last thing I'll mention is disaster recovery. We have seen customers, that have forgotten to take backups and those type of things in the past, and that's understandable when you have a small IT department and a bunch of local systems. Of course, sitting in our cloud, we have a team of people that their entire job is to make sure that everything is perfectly backed up and that it happens all the time. And the way it works in the Microsoft Cloud, which is actually where we are, and I'll get back to that, is that we can even do the replication, meaning the backups between different clouds. So even if one of Microsoft's data centers goes down, we have you immediately running on another data center. So those are just some benefits we get from being a Microsoft partner. So let's talk a little bit more about the product. When we built BI360 Cloud, which is very much an evolution of BI360's on-premise version, there was a key mantra that comes from having listened to our customers and partners for a number of years. And that mantra was, we want it to be easy, easy, easy. In other words, we don't want to have an absolute PhD guru in report writing on staff in order to create reports and manage the system and so on. So we've really hit home on that point in a lot of areas. We talked about installation. Of course, that's easy because you don't have anything to install. You just, order the software and you turn on the cloud and you go in and start using it. Same with upgrades, right? You never have to worry about that. It's easy. We take care of it. Data loading. Very, very important when you're in the cloud. You can't just use any Microsoft integration tools like you can on-premise. You can use SSIS and different third-party tools and so on to move data in and out of your systems and into your reporting system. With the cloud, you need to follow the rules of what they call APIs, so application programming interfaces, to get into the different data sources and so on. So we've built an entire integration tool that sits natively in our cloud as part of BI360 that's totally wizard-driven and makes it very easy to move data in, both on demand and on the schedule, into the BI360 Cloud. Data warehouse configuration, it's actually pretty amazing. Is when you set up the integration wizard, let's say to load data in from Dynamics 365 as an example, since a lot of you are evaluating that, then it automatically creates a data warehouse. You don't have to go into the data warehouse and say, I have 6 dimensions in Dynamics 365, and one is account, one is company, one is department, and so on. It literally builds the data warehouse automatically based on what setup you do in the integration itself. It's very cool and certainly extremely easy. Report design. We believe that because we're using Excel now, that is Excel connecting to the cloud to design reports, that's by definition pretty easy, since pretty much all of you know Excel. But sometimes that still takes you some time to get up and running. So with the cloud, we have not only made the other things easy I just mentioned, so you can quickly get to the point where your data is in the system and you're ready to write report, but we also have a new concept we call QuickPack, which is a template system, so that you can very quickly get a basic set of financial statements and some really cool like control reports for accountants to make sure everything balances and those type of things. That you can very quickly get that up and running. When I say very quickly, I mean the very first day you're using BI360 Cloud. Okay? So what about report editing? I will show you that, how you can sit in the cloud in our portal and you say, I need to add a column to this P&L or change a header or some sort of change. And with a click, you're opening it and it opens in your local Excel. You do the edit, and with a click, it's back in the web. I'm going to show you that. Very, very easy. Report sharing, we have a brand new feature that we haven't yet had the chance to create in the on-premise version, but all of our on-premise customers will see by the end of this year. This is the report archive. And I touched on that earlier. That is the ability to eliminate the need for you to go out there and design SharePoint portals or other ways to share report files with people you otherwise probably didn't want to buy a user license for. Now we made it extremely inexpensive and extremely easy to have your report archive, meaning the place you send executed reports for your end users to consume directly inside of the BI360 Cloud with full security and some very fascinating analysis options that I'm going to show you. And that those are things actually in the second to last bullet point here. We have concepts now in the cloud to make it very easy for end users to organize their own reports the way that they specifically like to look at them, which might be different from department to department, and also how to do analysis of multiple reports at the same time, and some other cool things. And of course, you don't want to have to call your partner or solver every time you have a question. So we have built in very powerful context-sensitive online help right in the cloud portal so that you're a click away from being able to read about what's going on your screen. So in summary, easy, easy, easy. That's hopefully the paradigm that I'll be able to show to you now that we go into the demo. This has been very important so that when you set up BI360 Cloud, you very quickly get the benefit from that power to give you more out of your Dynamics 365 ERP system or whatever ERP system you're running. Last thing I'll mention before we show you the software here is that BI360 Cloud is a real cloud solution. When we did our launch webinar last week, we said that, but we still got the question at the end, is it real? And why are people asking, is it real cloud? I think that's because they've seen so many quote-unquote fake clouds, if you want to call it that, meaning systems that are not multi-tenant, which means there's a vendor often maintaining, each customer on some virtual server, and systems that are sitting in private clouds where you don't necessarily have the benefits of what a vendor like Microsoft can offer on Azure. There's numerous services, including things that I'm not going to cover today, like machine learning and other things that you can literally turn on and benefit from because they're sitting there in Azure. So yes, BI360 Cloud is a true multi-tenant cloud application sitting on Microsoft Azure. Second important point, for those of you that are a little bit technical, what type of technology have you used to design the web interface? Very, very important. Why? Because there's a bunch of browsers out there that don't support all types of web interfaces. So our portal is all designed in the recommended modern web interface, which is HTML5. And that would be exactly the same as Microsoft have used as an example for Dynamics 365. So that means not only can you use any browser, but you can also open BI360 on your mobile devices without actually even using a mobile app. Best of both worlds, we talked about that earlier. So you will see there's two components to this. There's Excel for your power user that's going to design stuff, and then the web portal for everyone. Everything you see today, for that significant percent of you that are not planning to move to the cloud with your ERP this year, but you're planning it next year or later, if you like what you see, everything, the exact interface I'm showing you, will become our version 5.0 for on-premise at the end of this year. If you were wondering what we have for on-premise today, that is version 4.7 is our latest version. Also has web interface, also uses Excel. This is not the brand new software we built. It's a cloud interface, and it's cloud enabling of Excel and some new features. But the entire reporting engine is the same as we have in our on-premise version. And if you're an existing BI360 customer on this call, you actually don't have to rewrite your reports or your budget forms if you're going from BI360 on-premise using our data warehouse on-premise to the BI360 Cloud, because it is the same engine, which is fantastic. We did not have to rewrite the engine. So those are some important facts, and this is what I'm going to be showing you now as we go into the demo. It's very simple. Today I'm going to focus on reporting. That's the topic of the webinar. And I'm going to show you different types of reports and how they're designed and how the cloud looks. And this architecture is simply to show you what we mentioned, that there's an underlying data warehouse. This is not only a GL table in the cloud, like it's not only for your financial statements. It's any data that you want to bring in there, whether that's now or later. You might start by getting your financial statements out of BI360 Cloud, and then later start bringing in other data. Either way, it's ready for that. So let's take a look here. So what you see right here is tenant login. So that's the word you typically use in the cloud when you're a customer in the public cloud. You're a tenant. So it's my tenant login to the BI360 Cloud. And I'll actually log in as another persona afterwards, so you can see both the power user login and more of an end user login, and how they can see different things based on their login. So right now I would be like a controller or power user in your company, a person that would be able to, control the loading of data, build reports, set up security for my end users, that type of thing. So as soon as I log in, I see this interface. Now, we call this the home page because it truly is a home page that customers can control, or we'll give you a generic home page. And the whole idea behind this is that it can be changed from customer to customer based on what's important for you. As an example, you could have this home page be Dynamics 365. It could be Power BI that shows up here, and then as soon as you want to go into BI360, you click on the menus on the left. Right now, you can see we've set this up for our launch here. So we have different information. We have a demo video and some other things, and we will keep adding to this so that the initial customers get like extra help in their startup. So let's go right into BI360. And the first thing I want to do is just show you how it can look from a reporting standpoint. So here you can see I've set up the portal with a bunch of reports. So you can just glance down the screen there. And these reports would be either templates that you download from Solver's portal, or that you design yourself. Of course, half the benefit of BI360 is that you can design your own reports. So to run the report, I simply select it like this, and I can click the Run button here. That's opening that report. So I'm going to repeat this a few times. Everything you see now is in the cloud. There's nothing on my desktop. I'm simply in the browser. The fact that the report looks like Excel because you see the row numbers and the column letters is because most people like it that way, because it's easy to see, kind of references to cells and so on to see where you are. Of course, if you don't like that, you can take those away. I'm going to leave them in there. So it basically will look exactly like what the report looked like when you built it in Excel. You're going to see that in a little bit. We're going to build the report together and bring it here into the portal. So you see I had charts in that report. I have exception highlighting. So if you're one of the customers that are already, let's say, running Dynamics 365 Business Edition or Enterprise Edition, and you're suffering from not incredibly powerful reporting, then now we just solved that problem for you here. You have incredibly powerful reporting with any formatting and calculations you can imagine, as long as Excel offers it, yet you're sitting in the cloud. Okay? In terms of running this, I can come here. Based on my user security, I will then see the different companies or departments or periods, whatever you have on your parameters, and then I can say run, and I'm running this. Again, it's running in the cloud, processing, and giving me back that report. Now I can come here and say, let me go back to that Canadian business unit that I just had it run for. So I just click there, and now you can see now it's back on that, and I click here, it's back here. So once you run the report, it remembers the parameters here on the left, the months, the companies, the departments, so you can very quickly hop back and forth without re-executing the report. That's important in case the report takes 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds to run, depending on how much data, how many companies and so on you have. Another thing is you've run this report, notice it's for the Canadian entity, and you say, I want to send this to my archive. So if I do that, send to archive, what just happened? It actually sent that up to my archive up here, which is as if you today ran the report in Management Reporter, for example, or SSRS, and you say, let me transfer that over to SharePoint as an example, and now I have a bunch of SharePoint users that can come to the archive. In this case, I sent it to my own archive. Now, then I can come and view it there later. It's executed, and I might make a month-end presentation. I'll show you that later out of the archive. But for right now, I said, this looks great. I'm just going to post that to my archive, so I have it there for later. But at the same time, I want to share that report, let's say with all my department heads, because let's say this was a month-end process and we were just going through our reports. So I can share it with a group of users, or in this case, since we're going to log in as Johnny afterwards, I want to share it with Johnny. Let's say Johnny is the CEO or maybe somebody who requested this report, so I'm going to share it with him. That's all you have to do. It stays in the cloud, doesn't have to email it to anyone. It just moved over now to Johnny's archive. So just keep that in mind. We ran this P&L for the Canada entity, and when we log into Johnny, this report better sit there in his archive, okay? So let's close out of this. Now, how do you organize the reports? If you fall in love with BI360 Cloud and you build a whole bunch of reports in here, and you might start using the data warehouse to have data way beyond your ERP data and your financial data. So you have all kinds of reports. You probably have a lot of reports there. I hope so. So you want to be able to organize them. So if you come down here to category or categories, you can see an example of organizing your reports. So very, very easy. I can now say, let's say I'm an accountant in the accounting department, so I have my own folder here for how the accounting department sees things. And by the way, these folders here are only visible to people that have access to these specific folders, and they can be shared like a whole cluster, like all the sales report. I can come here and I can instantly share this with let's say the entire sales team, and they will see the same folders there based on their security. And you do that very easily with this little share button. So let's say I'm in the accounting department and all I care about are financial statements, and I have a folder where I maintain that. So you can see here I got the P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, and another P&L. Or maybe I care a lot about consolidations. So for my consolidation process, I've grouped together all of my consolidation reports. Okay. Now, let me just open this consolidating P&L report. This is just a note, since there's a lot of you that are planning to look at Dynamics 365 Business Edition. Some of you might already have upgraded to it and you're running on it. You might have discovered that right now there's no way you can consolidate companies in there. Here you see the very proof on the screen that you can immediately do. So if you plug BI360 Cloud onto Dynamics 365, let's say next week, then within the first day or 2 days, because this particular report is actually part of our quick pack. I mentioned that our templates set up to more or less run out of the box when you load data. Then right away you will have consolidations. We solve that problem immediately for you. So that's just an example. And of course the reports will all look beautiful because they can look as good as you can possibly think formatting would be in Excel. Okay? So that's just a little side note for that. So we talked about organizing reports very nicely in different folders, and of course we can go down into like a sub-ledger level and look at receivables reports, or maybe for expense analysis you have HR payroll reports. That may be data you loaded from Ceridian or ADP payroll into the BI360 Cloud, and now you're able to run those reports here. Maybe you're an accounts payable consolidations. Consolidations would be across if you have multiple companies, so you can consolidate your sub-ledger data and that type of thing. Okay, or you may be more on the operational level, so you might have other reports, let's say specifically focused on salespeople or customer analysis and so on. Let's just open the customer sales report. So now you see the BI360 report writer operating down at the sub-ledger level, looking at sales by quantity, rate, price, by customer, by product, by salesperson, as an example. Okay? So that gives you a little bit of an idea of living in the BI360 Cloud world with any type of report that you've designed based on the data that you've loaded. Now, how does it work with report design? Okay, let's make a new report, and let's make it based on a template. So I'm going to come down here, hop into P&L templates. So we have some templates here to get you quickly started. So let's say this report, we want to make a copy of this template so we can make it into a new report. So I'm going to just say duplicate. So you can do that with any report you want. Say copy it directly here in the cloud. I'm copying it, and I'll say a P&L report. Okay, duplicate. All right, so now we just copy it off of our template there, and there it's sitting. Now it's got the little draft status on it. That means nobody else can see this report because obviously it's not ready. It's just a copy of a template. So now we can select that and we can say edit. Now, if you watch what's happening, it's now taking this report down from the cloud and it's opening Excel. This is magic to me as a sort of a technology guy that's been in business a long time and more of a newbie in the cloud as far as our own technology goes, is to see how our development team have been able to have Excel interact with the cloud. Now, it's not magic to have Excel interact with the cloud. You can find that other places. But how it interacts with the cloud, how fast it works with the cloud, how smooth it works, it's a very in-depth thinking that's been taking place here to make sure we're not sending Excel files up and down from the cloud and how we bring in the data and so on. So let's quickly take this template here and notice on this template, we even put a little mini user manual at the bottom. If you're a true rookie that haven't gone through a lot of training before, so it tells you what you want to do. So it says put your title in B2. So I'm going to say that is my P&L report. And it says put subtitles here. So we'll say this is going to be our revenue section. Just hop over that. And this will be our expenses, like that. And then here I'm going to go in and specify which account. So notice I'm on row 9 here. Now it's reading this chart of accounts from the cloud. Just make a note of that. And it's not something you've installed locally whatsoever. It's all coming from the cloud. So I'm going to pick my revenue accounts. They're right there. And then here in the expense section, I'm going to pick my expense accounts. So I'm making a pretty simple report here. We'll pick all of them like that. And then I think we are good. Now let's delete our little mini user manual there. And let's save this. Notice when I save it, with the Excel save button, I save it. It says report draft successfully uploaded. Where did it go? Well, it's uploaded to the cloud, to the Microsoft Azure cloud, sitting in BI360's Azure. It's now there. One click, it's in the cloud. Now, I might want to test it out here first. So the really cool thing is, without having to now go and run it in the cloud, I can actually run it right here. Just like for those of you that have ever seen our on-premise version, it's exactly the same thing, except it's now talking to the cloud. So I can say, let me run this for March 2015, for example. And I'm running. It's now going to go to the cloud because the data is nowhere local, right? The data is in the cloud. Get the data and bring it down here. And we see we have our first report. Even our drill down works here. I can actually drill down, and it's going to go back to the cloud and do the drill down. Okay. So with that said, the report template is saved in the cloud, so we can close out here. There's nothing, no files you have to think about. You don't need to put it somewhere on your network and back it up like you would with all local, Excel systems and so on. It's simply up here. So there's that report. Now, we can flip that around and we can see that, yes, it was indeed me that made it, and we see the date that I made it and the exact time I made it. So we got that information right there. And we can see it's in draft. That simply means I might still want to check it out before I make this available in any of the folders here or share it with other users. So let's run it. So here now we see the two parameters we had on the left side of Excel is sitting here on the top. And yes, we can indeed go and switch based on our security and run it for other entities and so on. So we'll run that. And there it is. This is the report we just built, as you can see from the header that we put in and so on. Now, it's a cloud report. It doesn't get much easier than that. I don't think I've ever seen a cloud system that combines that power and ease of Excel with the cloud interface, and that can do it with these few clicks. So that's been our goal here, is to make it really, really easy. And the drill down I mentioned, right click, drill down, is right here. Now I can say publish. What does that mean? Publish means that that draft stamp goes away. So now at this point, anyone that I share this with can see it because it's no longer in draft mode. So if you have a large organization with lots of end users, this is just perfect control because you can build all kinds of reports. You might be half finished with a bunch of them, and nobody can see them until you hit publish, and at that point it's visible to other people. Now, let's say we want to share this with that same person or group of users. So we're going to share it with Johnny. So remember, we've shared the P&L report we did earlier with Johnny, and we've shared this report. Okay. So with that said, let's close out of here, and let's log out, and let's log in as Johnny. So now Johnny comes to his favorite BI360 Cloud URL, which he will have in the browser, right? Or it can be a link from somewhere you have, and he logs in. Logging in here to the Microsoft Cloud. Here's Johnny end user. Notice he does not see everything on the left side. He doesn't see live reporting. He doesn't see administration. So that's based on access rights, what you give Johnny access to. So in some cases, he may only have access to the archive even. So now let's talk about the archive. So the archive is, I would say, an innovation in terms of a cloud report archive, a place to store executed reports to those people that shouldn't be able to go and run their own reports. Because people that can run their own reports also need to understand that, you know, if it's budgeting, for example, budget numbers might change if you're running reports during the budget season, or that the controller or whoever is uploading the financial data from the, let's say, Dynamics 365 or whatever the ERP is, they might do several loads because maybe they're doing journal entries and making changes in ERP. So live reporting users are always a little bit of a worry for finance people because they have to always understand that they're seeing data that directly from the database. Versus in an archive, you're seeing reports that have been published by the people responsible for reporting, for example, the finance team. So here, a couple of things. If I come in here, I'll open the report I've read before. How do I know I read it before? Because it's not bold. Those that are in bold are reports I haven't read yet, just like your Outlook box, your email system, exactly the same principle. So I can say go and open this report again. There's no execution time or anything. It just goes and picks that up from the archive, right? And I can also print it from here. So it's here, fantastic printing because it remembers the original Excel formatting, yet you don't have to export it down to your local Excel. You can export it to your Excel if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just print it directly from there too. Drill down, you can still drill down. Even though you're on a static export report, you can go ahead and drill down too. Okay. Another thing with the archive is, like I said, it operates like your email system. So as I'm an end user, I can, whenever I come in here, I can see that, somebody sent me new reports. It looks like 3 P&Ls and this one, and then the sales report. I want to go and check that out. So remember, we sent in 2 reports today. You can see the dates there too, right? So the one we built was that last one, and then the one we ran at the beginning of the demo is this one. So let's take a look at the one we built. So we're going to look at that. There's that report. If you close out of there, now you can notice it's no longer bold, just like your emails. So it's very easy to see. Now here's a cool feature. So you're doing your analysis. So you're looking at, let's say, this P&L report that somebody just gave us, and we're looking at the revenue accounts in there. But when I look at revenue accounts, if I think about myself here at Solver, I sometimes wonder, well, what's the detail? Who sold those deals or who bought them, if it's customers and so on. So I want to look at the sales report at the same time. So here's the sales report. Actually, there's another sales report, one by customer, is one by salesperson. Let's pick up this one. So I click on both the P&L and the sales report, and I say open. So this is also a first, as far as I know, in the cloud, in that for your reporting, you don't need to necessarily sit with two big monitors on your desktop and start splitting your screens or putting one report on each screen. Your other screen might be sitting there with Dynamics 365 or your email or something else if you do have two screens, or you simply comparing reports right here, right? So here's that report, and we're looking at our revenues here, and then below we're looking at sales, so where those revenues came from. We can see Riley here clearly was the one that contributed most to the sales, and scroll a little bit more. You can compare it year over year and scroll a little bit more, and we see the actual reporting part. This is not Power BI, it's not Tableau, it's not the dashboard. It's just you using your reporting license in BI360 and the power of the fact that it supports Excel charts, of course, and they can be built right in there in your reports. Now you might say, great, I'm done with that. Let me just use the full screen for that sales report. So this way, you can very easily do your analysis. The last thing I'll talk about, remember this is all in the archive. This is all that group of users that are very sort of light users of a system. You're very concerned if you should be buying them a license for a reporting tool because you don't want to have any significant ongoing cost. So with the archive, we've made a very, very low user cost. So it's totally worth it to have a large number of people consuming the reports here and benefiting from drill down, really nice organized viewing of reports and so on. And by the way, you can see these reports this way too. So now I sort of flipped where I see the report, and then I can see how many instances of that report. That can be by department or month or however the power user set up the parameters and posted this to the archive. So these are just to make the life very nice and beautiful and easy for the end user. Now, one last thing I'll mention, and then we'll start wrapping up. This person might be yourself, let's say as a finance person, and you're going in, let's say in an hour to do a board presentation. So you don't want to sit and run reports in front of your board. You just want to have them nicely set up as a presentation format, but you don't want to waste your time exporting reports from Dynamics 365 or some other system and formatting them in Excel, then putting them into a PowerPoint slide. You just want to be able to do it straight from here as an example. So you can make yourself what's called playlists. So a playlist is very simple. If we take that report we just made, for example, we can say add that to playlist and put it into Nils' presentation. Say OK. And now you can see that report is in Nils' playlist. Okay. Now, if Nils' playlist is the one that you're going to use for your presentation, these are exactly the reports in exactly the order you want to show them. Fantastic. All you have to do in your presentation, whether it's just to yourself for analysis or you're in front of the board of directors, you can say open playlist. And now you're seeing the reports exactly like you set them up. So there's a balance sheet. There's a cash flow. There's that report analyzing our sales. And here's that brand new report that we built together. So in other words, the archive gives you all of that power of analysis and viewing of reports without having to pay a lot for it and without having to prepare things outside of the system. So with that said, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to come back to my PowerPoint here. And I'm going to give you some more important information the next 2-3 minutes, and then we will look at questions. So you saw it and you saw the demo. Now, what about budgeting? And what about connecting this to Power BI or using native BI360 dashboards if you want that? Like I said, last week we launched the BI360 Cloud publicly, and that is what you saw today, the reporting. I didn't really go deep into data warehouse. You just saw it there on the menu, but that's where you organize all the data and where our integration tool is pumping the data from your different clouds and on-prem. And then we're going to release our budgeting module. So all of you that know us know our budgeting module from the on-premise version of BI360. So that will surface here shortly. With shortly, I mean in about 6 to 8 weeks. We're launching that exactly in that same interface, except then you'll have data entry and forecasting and budgeting, and then dashboards. Now, many of you will use Power BI as your dashboards, so you may not be interested in the native BI360 dashboards, and that's totally fine because you'll be able to pull data into Power BI as well from the data warehouse. Or if you're using Dynamics 365, as you probably know, you already have that bolted on to Power BI very easily too. So that's that. In terms of integrations, as we now have gone into our first version of the BI360 Cloud, there's a bunch of integrations in there. I think it was 6% of you said that you're going to look at other cloud ERPs than Dynamics ERPs. So, or if you're a partner, let's say, that sell both Dynamics 365 and, let's say, Intact or Acumatica, well, also all connectors that are here right now. Connectors are those very nice integrations that pulls the data into the BI360 Cloud. And then we have a whole bunch of other connectors that we're doing very shortly. Very shortly, I mean the next 6 to 8 weeks, that are loading data automatically from on-premise, like on-premise Dynamics SL, GP, AX. So again, that's from on-premise. Or if you're a partner, you got customers you want to migrate from, let's say, QuickBooks, that will be a connector, so you can get the historical data in there before you put them on, let's say, Dynamics 365, and so on. Today, if you want to start with BI360 right now and your data is on-premise, we also have a CSV connector, so you can immediately load data. We have a very easy way to get the data out of all the Dynamics on-premise tools. Basically, we use the local BI360 to spit it out with one click, and then dynamically on a schedule using our CSV connector that's loaded into the cloud. So you could do that right away too. This is my last slide. So Jason, if you can get ready on your side so we can see if there's any questions that's been entered. So if you're interested in BI360 on-premise because you aren't ready for the cloud, no problem, as I said here, because we've been doing that for 8 years and you have reporting, budgeting, dashboards, data warehouse ready to go. If you're interested in BI360 Cloud, no problem. You saw it today. You can do reporting right now. And as I mentioned, budgeting follows here in 6 to 8 weeks. If you want to use BI360 on-premise, let's say for live reporting on GP or SL or something like that, but you want to go to BI360 Cloud later, you could start on-premise and then migrate to the cloud. That's also possible, and you don't have to learn a new report writer and so on. So, or you can do both, run it on-premise and cloud at the same time. I gave you some reasons for that earlier. You can contact us for one-on-one demos or questions or discussions at info@solverglobal.com. We have many, many great partners out there, so don't forget them. Ask your partner if they are a BI360 partner. And in that case, we went through partner webinars and we did some partner training the last 2 weeks. So many of our partners are already ready to talk about what I showed you today, or they can connect with us and we can help them give you the information you need. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, and then Jason, any questions we want to bring up?
All right, thanks, Neil. So, yeah, we'll dive into the questions here. I'm also going to just launch one final poll question as we get your questions going. Just a chance to sort of indicate your interest in follow-ups from Solver, but back to, and that's obviously something you can close down on your screen there, Nils. So there's a question about GP. So for making a connection to on-premise Dynamics GPU, which I know you said is available, would we need to install anything on-premise?
It depends, because we have those two options I mentioned. So if you don't want to put anything on-premise, you can output your trial balance as an example, just to a file, and then you can use our CSV connector to upload it. And again, that can be done on the schedule. Or you can install a BI360 one-user report writer on-prem, and that becomes your quote-unquote gateway, and you can use BI360's local report writer to output that data and then upload it to BI360 Cloud. So you got both options right now.
All right, there's a question asking I'm sorry, let me pull it back up here. How do you decide whether to use BI360 or Power BI?
That's a very good question where we have to be very clear as a vendor. We are not trying to be the dashboard tool of the world. There are some amazing dashboard tools out there. Power BI has quickly arrived on the scene the last couple of years as one of those. And we are not trying to replicate that. We want to be the world's best financial and operational report writer and the world's best budgeting and forecasting tool. And right there should tell you what the difference is, because Power BI is not a financial report writer and is not a budgeting tool. That's what we are.
Okay, well, we make a final call for questions here. I don't see any others in the queue, Nils, so I think we will begin wrapping up. There was actually a question about access to the slides and to the recording. We will make the recording available, and maybe we can discuss access to the slides as well.
Yeah, or of course the slides are in the recording, so that might solve itself.
True.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could reach out to you if they had more questions.
Absolutely.
All right.
And again, that email is info@solverglobal.com.
One more question here. Will BI360 Cloud automatically upload data from GP on-prem so that reports reflect real-time data?
That is a great question. So no cloud system, make no doubt about it, whatever people say, will be real-time. Real-time meaning really real-time, that you post a journal entry and there is no movement of your data to another place before you can see it in the report, right? You are moving your data to the cloud. So the question is really how near real-time can you get? And that is just based on the amount of data that you have. So if you have, so of course you don't load 10 years of data every time. You do a one-time load of all of your history, and then typically you will only load year-to-date or even the current month as you're in your closing process, and that will be very, very fast so that you get close to near real-time.
Okay, well, we will end it there. I'm just going to close out that last poll. Nils, thank you so much for joining us today. Interesting session, and congratulations on the launch.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason, and thanks to everyone that joined. And hopefully, if nothing else, we've given you some ideas of what a cloud reporting solution can look like.
Very good. Well, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. As Nils said, have a great day. That concludes today's event.